Have you ever looked back at a conversation with a woman and suddenly thought, wait, she wasn't just talking. She was testing me. That moment hits hard, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Most men don't realize this in the moment. They realize it weeks later, sometimes months later, sometimes only after the woman has completely disappeared from their life. And it happens most often to men over 45 or 50. Not because they're unattractive, not because they've lost their edge, but because the rules of attraction change with age, and no one explains the new rules. Here's the truth most men never hear. Women do not pursue older men the same way they pursue younger men. Younger men get obvious signals, clear flirting, direct compliments, overt interest. Older men don't. Not because women feel less desire, but because women feel more risk. They don't flirt loudly. They don't make dramatic moves. They don't chase. They don't want to appear desperate, reckless, or emotionally exposed, especially not with a man they respect. So instead of flirting openly, women observe. Instead of pushing forward, they test. Instead of revealing desire, they hide it inside questions. This is where most men misread the situation. A woman can be deeply interested in you and still look calm, composed, even neutral on the surface. Because when a woman feels a quiet pull toward a mature man, she doesn't express desire directly. She disguises it as curiosity. She asks questions that seem harmless. Questions that sound like small talk. Questions that, on the surface, mean nothing. But underneath, they mean everything. These questions are not about information. They are about connection. They are designed to test your awareness, your emotional presence, your masculinity. And if you don't recognize them for what they are, the moment passes, silently. That's why so many men say, I thought she was just being polite. I didn't want to assume. I didn't think she was interested. But she was. She just wasn't going to spell it out for you. Today I'm going to show you the 2 specific questions women ask when they are considering intimacy with a mature man. Not friendship, not casual conversation, but real emotional and physical closeness. These questions are so subtle that most men miss them completely. And by the time they realize what happened, the door is already closed. But before we go any further, do this for me. Hit the like button right now, and comment below if you've ever realized a woman was interested only after the moment passed. Because your engagement doesn't just support the channel, it helps this message reach other men who are still wondering why opportunities keep slipping through their fingers. Now listen carefully. Why women approach older men differently. Many men over 50 quietly carry a belief they rarely say out loud, that they've faded into the background, that the world now belongs to younger faces, louder energy, faster lives, that attraction has an expiration date. But that belief is false. Attraction doesn't disappear with age. It evolves. What changes is not desire. What changes is how desire is expressed. Women don't look at older men and think, he needs attention. They think, he's already lived. They assume you've loved. They assume you've been hurt. They assume you've built emotional walls for survival. And because of that, women approach older men with caution, not indifference. They don't want to intrude on a life that feels closed. They don't want to embarrass themselves by misreading a man who appears emotionally distant. They don't want to risk vulnerability with someone who may no longer be open to connection. So instead of revealing attraction openly, women observe first. They test gently. They probe carefully. They look for signs of openness without exposing themselves. This is why women rarely flirt loudly with older men. Not because they lack desire, but because the stakes feel higher. And here's the key point most men miss. For women, safety is the foundation of desire. Not safety in the physical sense alone, but emotional safety. Safety means, is he emotionally available? Is his life stable or chaotic? Is he grounded or withdrawn? Does he have direction, or is he emotionally done? This is why women don't rush toward older men. They evaluate first, and that evaluation happens through questions. How feminine interest really works. Men and women express attraction in fundamentally different ways. Men move outward. When a man is interested, he acts. He initiates conversation. He offers assistance. He creates opportunities. He steps forward. Women move inward. When a woman is interested, she doesn't push. She pulls. And she pulls with questions. Not random curiosity. Not casual chatter. Not meaningless small talk. but questions designed to reveal your inner state. Each question quietly asks something deeper. Is this man emotionally open or shut down? Is there space for me in his life? Is he moving forward or standing still? Does he have presence or is he distracted by the past? These questions are not about facts. They are about feeling. Women don't test men they feel nothing for. Testing requires emotional investment. A woman only tests a man when she's considering him as more than conversation. So the moment a woman begins asking intentional personal questions, she has already crossed an internal line. She's no longer just being polite. She's no longer just passing time. She's no longer just making conversation. She's evaluating intimacy. She's asking herself, often unconsciously, would it feel safe to get closer to this man? And your responses, your tone, your presence, your awareness, answer that question more loudly than your words ever could. That's where most men lose the moment. Not because they said the wrong thing, but because they didn't realize what was really being asked. And that's why the next part matters so much. The first question, her test of emotional access. When a woman feels drawn to an older man, she rarely moves forward directly. Instead, she slows the moment down and tests the emotional ground first. That test often begins with a question that sounds simple. Do you spend much time on your own? On the surface, it feels harmless, casual, even forgettable. But this question is anything but innocent. It has nothing to do with loneliness, nothing to do with your schedule, nothing to do with how busy your calendar is. This question is a quiet emotional probe. It is her way of asking, without risking rejection, is there room in his life for someone else? Is his heart open or emotionally shut down? Is he reachable or protected by habits, routines, and walls built over years? Women don't ask this question to men they feel neutral about. They ask it when they're already imagining what it might feel like to be closer. And because women are intuitive communicators, this question rarely appears in the same form twice. She may soften it and say, you seem comfortable being by yourself. She may disguise it as observation. You're usually on your own, right? She may frame it as admiration. You strike me as someone who enjoys solitude. Or she may make it sound practical. Are you seeing anyone or just keeping to yourself lately? Different phrasing, same emotional intent. She is gently leaning forward internally, trying to sense whether she would be welcomed or quietly turned away if she leaned forward externally. This is where most men lose the moment. Because most men hear this question literally, they respond with facts. Yes, I'm alone most of the time. No, I stay busy. It depends on the week. To a man, these answers feel honest and harmless. To a woman, they feel closed, because she wasn't asking for information. She was asking for emotional permission. She was asking, if I move closer, will I hit a wall? And when a man answers this question without awareness, without warmth, openness, or grounded presence, the moment quietly collapses. Not dramatically, not immediately, but internally. She pulls back. She stops wondering. She stops leaning in. And the man never knows why the energy changed. That's why understanding this first question is crucial. It's not about what you say. It's about what your answer signals. A grounded man doesn't overshare. He doesn't sound lonely. He doesn't sound unavailable. He communicates balance, presence, quiet openness. And when he does, the door stays open, just long enough for the second question to appear. How a grounded man responds. A grounded man doesn't rush to explain himself. He doesn't justify. He doesn't overcorrect. He responds with calm openness, not eagerness, not defensiveness, not emotional distance. Calm openness is the balance most men never learn. When she asks that first question, a grounded man understands this. She's not interviewing him, she's feeling for access. So he answers in a way that communicates strength and receptivity. Something simple, unforced, centered. I value my space, but I always make room for the right energy. Or, I enjoy my routines, but connection still matters to me. Notice what these responses don't do. They don't seek approval. They don't reveal loneliness. They don't close the door. Instead, they quietly communicate three powerful signals at once. You are emotionally open without being exposed. You are self-sufficient without being isolated. You are selective without being closed. That combination is rare, and rarity creates attraction. To a woman, this response feels safe. Safe because you are not reaching for her. Safe because you are not hiding from her. Safe because your life feels stable, intentional, and grounded. Safety allows her nervous system to relax. And when a woman relaxes emotionally, curiosity turns into desire. This is the moment where her interest either deepens or disappears. If she feels warmth and openness, she leans in. If she feels distance or confusion, she pulls back. And when she leans in, something important happens. She stops testing access and starts testing direction. That's when the second question appears. Not immediately, not abruptly, but naturally. Because once a woman senses she can enter your world, the next thing she wants to know is your world worth entering? The second question, her test of direction. Once a woman senses that you're emotionally accessible, she shifts her focus. Now she's no longer asking, "Can I enter his world?" She's asking something deeper. Where is this man's world going? This is where the second question appears. It usually sounds simple. What are you looking for these days? Most men hear this and relax. They assume it's casual. They assume it's small talk. It's not. This is one of the most vulnerable questions a woman can ask, especially to an older man, because by asking it, she's revealing something about herself. She's considering alignment. She may phrase it in different ways. What do you want at this stage of your life? What are you focusing on lately? Where do you feel your life is heading? What are you hoping for more of right now? Different words, same meaning. She's not asking about your career. She's not asking for a list of achievements. She's not interested in your resume. She's reading your inner compass. This question quietly asks, is this man emotionally alive or emotionally finished? Does he know who he is, or is he still searching? Is he anchored in purpose or drifting through routines? Is his life expanding or shrinking? Women don't lean toward men who feel directionless. Direction creates gravity. A man with direction feels stable, predictable in the right way, safe to lean into, not because he has everything figured out, but because he's moving with intention. This is what women respond to most, especially as they mature. A man doesn't need to be perfect. He doesn't need to be impressive. He needs to be alive inside, and this question is her way of discovering whether you are, where most men fail. This is the moment where most men lose her, quietly, not because they said something offensive, not because they lacked charm, but because they sounded unclear. When asked about direction, many men default to safe, vague answers. I'm just taking it day by day. I'm not really sure right now. I just want peace. To a man, these answers feel mature, balanced, non-dramatic. But to a woman, they feel unstable, not dangerous, but unanchored. These answers don't communicate calm strength. They communicate emotional dormancy. They suggest a man who is coasting rather than choosing, a man who is resting rather than moving, a man who is avoiding rather than directing his life. And women don't lean into men who feel paused, not because those men are bad, but because uncertainty does not feel safe. A woman doesn't want perfection. She doesn't need you to have everything figured out. She doesn't need grand plans or dramatic ambition. She wants clarity. Clarity tells her, you know yourself. You know what matters. You're not stuck in the past. You're moving forward intentionally. Clarity creates emotional safety, and emotional safety is what allows desire to stay alive, the masculine way to answer. When this question comes, a grounded man doesn't over-explain. He doesn't list goals. He doesn't tell his life story. He doesn't try to impress. He answers with intention. Because intention is what women are listening for, not detail. A simple, centered response is enough. I'm building a meaningful chapter with the right people. Or, I'm focused on depth, connection, growth, and good energy. Or, I'm moving toward a life that feels intentional, not rushed. These answers are powerful not because they are clever, but because they communicate inner direction. They quietly tell her, you are emotionally present. You are not living in old stories. You are choosing your life deliberately. And something subtle happens when she hears this. She stops wondering whether you're available. She stops questioning whether you're drifting. She starts imagining where she fits. Not because you invited her explicitly, but because your life feels open, stable, and alive. Women don't want to be chased into a man's life. They want to feel welcomed into it. This kind of answer creates that feeling. It gives her a clear emotional signal without pressure. It shows leadership without control, confidence without arrogance. And that's powerful. Because when a woman can see herself fitting naturally into your direction, attraction no longer needs effort. It unfolds. Why these two questions matter so much after 50. By the time a man reaches his 50s or beyond, women approach him with a very specific assumption. They assume his life is already full. Not busy, full. Full of routines, full of history, full of past relationships, responsibilities, and emotional scars, full of habits that have been reinforced for decades. And because of that assumption, women behave very differently around older men. They don't push. They don't chase. They don't insert themselves aggressively into his life. They assume that if a man wants something, he will open the door himself. So when a woman feels drawn to an older man, she does something very deliberate. She tests once, not loudly, not dramatically, not repeatedly. Once. Those two questions, the ones you've just learned, are not casual curiosity. They are emotional invitations. They are her way of saying, without risking rejection, is there space for me here? Is this man alive inside? Is it safe for me to step closer? And if those invitations are missed, she does not ask again. This is where many men misunderstand female behavior. They expect persistence. They expect second chances. They expect clearer signals. But feminine psychology does not work that way, especially with mature men. Women protect their dignity. They protect their emotional energy. They protect their vulnerability. If they open the door and feel no response, they don't knock louder. They step back, quietly, gracefully, without explanation. That's why there is no argument, no confrontation, no awkward conversation, just distance. One day the message is slow, the warmth fades, the curiosity disappears, and the man is left confused. He tells himself, she was friendly, and then she disappeared. But she didn't disappear. She withdrew after her emotional signals went unanswered. She concluded, often unconsciously, that your life had no space for her, or that your inner world was closed, or that you were no longer emotionally available for connection. And once a woman makes that internal decision, she rarely reverses it, not because she's cold, not because she lacks interest, but because she respects herself. This is why these two questions matter more after 50 than at any other stage of life. Younger men get multiple chances because women assume inexperience. Older men do not. With maturity comes expectation. Expectation of awareness. Expectation of presence. Expectation of emotional intelligence. Women assume an older man has learned how to recognize subtle signals. So when he doesn't, they don't educate him. They move on. And here's the part most men never realize. This has nothing to do with attractiveness, nothing to do with money, nothing to do with looks. It has everything to do with awareness. A woman is not testing your worth. She's testing your perception. Can you read the moment? Can you recognize the invitation? Can you respond with calm, masculine presence? Because from a woman's perspective, a man who misses these signals is not unattractive. He's unavailable. And availability at this stage of life is everything. This is why understanding these two questions changes everything for men over 50. It allows you to recognize interest in real time, instead of realizing it later in silence. It keeps doors open that would otherwise close without a sound. And once you see this pattern, you'll never again wonder why connection suddenly vanished. You'll know exactly when the invitation appeared, and whether you stepped forward or let it pass. The truth most men never learn. A woman doesn't test your charm, she tests your awareness. If you recognize these questions, you recognize desire in real time. If you miss them, you'll always wonder later. So remember this. When a woman feels drawn to an older man, she asks, is there space in his life for me? Is his life going somewhere I'd feel safe entering? Those are the two questions. They are never random. Before you go, comment, I see the signs below if this resonated with you. And if you want more content on masculine presence, stoic attraction, and emotional intelligence, subscribe now. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.